So you're going to shower every day, but never cleanse your aura. You're going to feed your body, but not feed your soul. Work your spiritual hygiene into your daily routine. That is a quote courtesy of my ancestors. Hey moonbeams, welcome back to Cosmosis or Whatever with me, your host, Celia Marie 1243, Celia the Spirit Guide Whisperer, your fairy tarot sister. I am here to help guide and support you on your spiritual journey, in trusting your intuition, in building a healthy relationship with your spirit guides, all of that. So if you're into that or even curious about it, you're definitely in the right place. This week's episode, we are talking about spiritual maintenance. I've been talking about it a lot lately, especially on Patreon and in Development Circle, but I don't think I've actually done anything officially focused on it. So it's time. It's a long overdue topic. I did do a YouTube video talking about spiritual lessons I wish I knew sooner. And so if you haven't listened to that, please go listen to it. I noticed it didn't really get a whole lot of traction, and I'm wondering if that was something with like my thumbnail or the time that I posted it. But it really is a very good video because I talk about a lot of the things that I wish I knew sooner, a lot of the spiritual lessons that I have learned that will prevent you guys from making the same types of mistakes, or at least inform you. So definitely listen to that. And spiritual hygiene was on that list for sure. So you'll hear me use different terms, spiritual maintenance, energy maintenance. You might hear me say spiritual hygiene or energy hygiene. So just know when I'm talking about any of those, I kind of use them all interchangeably to talk about the same thing. But what is it? That's why you're here. I know. So spiritual maintenance or energy hygiene, that is all about taking care of yourself. Right? That's really what it boils down to. Taking care of yourself so that you feel good and you stay healthy. It's those things that you do every day, or routinely to keep your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spirit, of course, in good shape. So when you are pursuing a spiritual path, which we all are technically, and I talked about that in the YouTube video, energy hygiene is super important, especially for all of my highly sensitive, very intuitive people, my empaths like you who are listening. If you don't identify as any of those things, but you're listening to this and you really resonate with everything I'm saying, you might be an empath and there might be shadow work around the word empath. I know there's a lot of like negative connotations around the word empath, or, even sensitive. But if you're having like an adverse reaction to being called that, that's probably some shadow work to do. But that's for another episode, right? So it's super, super important for people who are super sensitive to energy. And at first I was going to kind of talk about like muggle, maintenance versus like more spiritual types of energy hygiene. But when I was kind of writing out my notes, I'm like, they aren't really that different. And a lot of times they're combined. Hence the quote in the beginning. That quote was from like a couple years ago, I believe. I was meditating and my spirit guides and ancestors kind of came to me with that message. And they're like, so you really just did all that and you're not really focused on doing any of the spiritual stuff that you could have done while you, showered, while you ate. And it's like, oh, okay. And I don't want anybody to freak out because this isn't going to add like a whole bunch of extra stuff to your routine. And I think some of us struggle with routines as it is. I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD. So I feel you if you're already kind of struggling with that. But it's important to know that these things, they feed each other, right? They can be combined with intention, and just that intention makes a huge difference in your life. Just by being a little more aware of what you actually want and what you are putting your energy towards, it makes things better. Yes, it does. It really does. It doesn't have to be super complicated. And I'm going to share some ways with you guys. If you guys listen to one of my previous podcast episodes talking about ways to be more intentional, I'm talking, all of those things are energy maintenance things. I just may not, I think I mentioned it, but I didn't put so much emphasis on it. We're emphasizing it today because I think this is such an important topic that so many of us in the spiritual world kind of brush over. And I think a lot of us tend to, I always say there is a fine line, paper thin line between psychic and psychosis. So that's not to scare you and tell you that you're going crazy, but it is important to keep yourself grounded, to keep yourself doing all of these things that are part of your spiritual and, even muggle energy maintenance. A lot of us on our spiritual journey, we tend to neglect our human selves, especially in the beginning, right? We're focused on our spiritual selves and like, oh, I got to meditate, and oh, I got to meet my spirit guides, and oh, I got to, open my third eye. And then we completely neglect all the other things that we actually need, that are actually our human needs, that are still the base and where we need to start before we can build on all of those spiritual things. Now, does everything need to be perfect? No. But you have to start with the basics in order to get to all the other stuff. Like, so many times people ask me, Celia, how do I, open my third eye? And I'm like, have you worked on your root chakra? And they're like, what's a root chakra? I'm like, oh no. We can't do this. Because your root chakra is the base. That is your center of trust. That is your center of grounding. That is your center of feeling safe. So if you are not in a good place in all of those areas I just mentioned, then it can be a lot more scary for you to open your third eye and all of your other psychic abilities and things. And it could potentially be dangerous, honestly. Again, not saying that to scare you. I say things to prepare you, to give you the honest, to give you the real. I'm always going to tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So yeah, I just feel like this is a really important episode that we really just need to talk about in depth. So definitely wanted to put this out here. In that YouTube video, I kind of briefly talked about the hierarchy of needs. I'm telling you, you really need to watch that if you haven't, by the way, because it really is full of mistakes that I made on my journey. And I know I've had like an influx of new moonbeams. Hi, new moonbeams. If you are here, if you're into all this stuff, you are a moonbeam. And if you are listening to this, you are officially welcomed into the family. So hi, nice to have you. I'm excited to be working with a new crowd, a new crew of people, gain some new family members on this spiritual journey. A lot of us, I believe, have had past lives together in different ways, and it feels really good to reconnect with a lot of you guys on that like soul level, so welcome to the Moonglow fam. But yeah, so hierarchy of needs, right? In order to, that's a basic idea by what's his name? I can't remember. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember that man's name. But he basically said, in order to reach your highest self, in order to reach nirvana, as some people call it, or spiritual ascension, or, whatever you call it, you need to take care of your basic needs first, and then you build on them from that. So the basics, that is your energy hygiene. That is your spiritual maintenance. And I'll talk a little bit more about the spiritual practices at the end, but I want to go through a bunch of things that you can do to make sure that you are energetically, spiritually maintaining and keeping your hygiene together. Okay, so eating. I don't know if you thought that's where we were going to start, but that's definitely where we're going to start. So, you want to build a relationship with your spirit guides, and you want to open your third eye and astral project and timeline jump. That's great. how do you think you're going to have energy to do that if you're not eating? Not even just not eating, but if you're not eating the right foods. And this is never to never body shame anybody, diet shame anybody. But I feel like, again, these are things that I've learned on my journey, and being a mentor, being a guide for people, I feel like it's my responsibility, not even responsibility, just it's my experience. And I feel like I need to share it and put it out there for you to pick up whenever you need, right? I'm never shoving anything in your hands and forcing you to do anything. Be careful of people who do that. But just setting things out there and letting you pick them up when you're ready. But keep in mind, my journey has not been perfect. For a lot of you, my OGs who've been listening and following me and supporting me, shout out to you guys for one. But for all of you guys who've been supporting me and following my journey, I used to eat like complete crap. And do I still eat like complete crap sometimes? Sometimes. Yeah, I do. And we're all going to be on different parts of our journey at different times. It's going to ebb and flow. It's going to fluctuate. That's normal. But I literally remember a time when I was just eating like fast food constantly. And just recently I have cut out meat from my diet. And for me, not for everybody, but for me, it's working. I like it. I feel the difference in my energy. So again, whatever works for you, but what I mostly encourage people to do, and what have been channeled messages from a lot of people's spirit guides, is about eating more foods from the earth, right? Eating more vegetables, eating different varieties, different colors, but even just making sure that you're eating in general, because sometimes I forget to eat. But I know my check-ins that I do with myself, when my energy feels off, the first thing that I ask myself is, have I eaten? Have I drank water? I don't say it as much anymore, but I used to say it all the time. Drink water, drink water, drink water. Hydrate yourself. Because my spirit guides would always tell me that and always remind me that. Because why? It is spiritual maintenance. It is energy hygiene to make sure that your body, this vessel, has the fuel that it needs. Imagine trying to go somewhere in your car and you don't got no gas. Baby, you're not going anywhere. You're just going to sit there. And I'm hearing and rust. But so making sure that you're getting your maintenance, and even how you have to get your car, you have to get it checked up. You have to get it tuned up. If a light comes on, you got to check out what the light means. If you just ignore it and it crashes and burns, can you really be upset? No, it warned you. But it's important for us to learn what those warning signs are in our body. But yeah, that is my basic checklist. When my energy feels off, right? Did I eat? Did I sleep well? Am I drinking water? That's the first part, right? So next, sleeping, right? Eating and drinking water. I'll put that in the same one, making sure that you're getting nutrients in your body, right? And there's a lot of different nutrients that we need in our body in order for us to have energy, and have the energy that we eat be able to convert the right way into energy. And there's a bunch of different vitamins and minerals. Your body really is a complex machine, but if you're feeding it with the right things, you're good, and that helps to build that base for the rest of it. Okay, so sleeping next. Yes, sleep, good sleep hygiene, that is a part of your energy maintenance, right? Especially that particular combination of the words, energy maintenance, because you have to get sleep. There's so many people who end up falling asleep when we do meditations every month, for the full moons, or even the other meditations I have. People will tell me oh, I fell asleep. And that's a really common thing to happen. And I say 9 times out of 10, if you fall asleep during a meditation, it's because you were tired. Go figure, right? It's because you needed sleep. Meditation oftentimes takes us to that state that is right before you go to sleep. If your body is so tired and it pulls you directly into that state of sleep, it means you probably just really needed it. So yeah, it can be hard to meditate. It can be hard to talk to your spirit guides and get a coherent message. It might be difficult to, timeline jump, to manifest, to do all these spells and things if you're not sleeping. If you can't even keep your eyes open, how are you supposed to, you know what I mean? Like, these things sound kind of like simple, but really they are just so fundamental. Okay, so another thing to consider when you're thinking about your energy maintenance, your spiritual hygiene, connecting with other people. Okay, connection. We as human beings we have an innate need to connect with other people. We have to. It is a huge part of why we're here, not to just experience our own energy, but to experience the energy of others and have that energy reflect back to us what's going on. Like, it's this whole thing, but you really need healthy, nourishing relationships in your life, and you'll never have them if you don't connect with others. And I'm not going to lie, I struggle with this sometimes because for me, I definitely, I tend to kind of isolate myself sometimes because I have been in just a lot of like situations where maybe in relationships I've dealt with like narcissists, or I've dealt with people who maybe didn't have the best intentions, and then it makes me kind of want to withdraw. And, I have empathy for that, obviously, because I've been through it myself. But at the same time, there is this innate need we need as humans for connection, for beautiful, healthy, solid connection, or even connection that challenges us, right? So making sure that you are around people, that you're not always just isolating yourself, that you get connection with human, living, breathing people. And as much as we do, virtual events and stuff like that, because I can't be everywhere at the same time, it's like you also need to make sure that you are trying your best to get out there in the actual world and connect with people. Easier said than done for some of us, I swear. I know. If you guys listened to my episode of the podcast, it was a while ago, but it was called How to Show Up for Yourself. I literally cried, and I was talking about like kind of having social anxiety, but just craving that connection, and I ended up learning something from it. Did I end up being friends with any of those people? Absolutely not. But the experience is what I needed, and that learning around human connection is what I needed. So connection is really important. And also just learning how to conduct yourself around people, and learning what people you do want to be around and what people you don't want to be around. Sometimes the only way that you can find that out is actually being around people. Gasp. I know it's tough sometimes. I used to always say, like, because I've been a lot better and I have my moments, again, ebbs and flows, where like I won't want to go outside. I won't want to be around people. And if you're sensitive to energy, you can probably relate, right? You don't want to be around people just because they're people. And I used to say like, oh, how come every time I go outside, there's also other people out there? Like, why are you guys here? But we need that human connection. That's where I'll end that one. So this next one kind of jumps into that, but also some other stuff. I'll just talk about it. So cleaning, right? So cleaning, and this includes cleaning your space, but also cleaning like your aura energetically. Okay, so our aura is, if you aren't familiar with auras, and we'll probably have to do an episode on auras, but your aura is that part of you that is like the outer layer of your energy. Some people can see it. A lot of people don't unless they're, really focused in on it. But it's kind of like your outer bubble of energy. And we can have rips, tears. Our aura can be dirty, dingy, depending on whatever energy we are emitting at the time. And other people's energies can also affect our aura. So if you have this bright, beautiful aura and you are walking out into, like, let's say Walmart, and there are people with dingy auras, and I'm not saying people with dingy auras are bad, okay? Don't get me wrong. But if you're out there and, you're rubbing up against people with dingy auras, it's gonna kind of suck a little bit of the life out of your aura. Have you ever been in a room where you enter the room and immediately, like, you can feel the whole energy? Like, whether it's sad, or maybe people are anxious, or maybe even just really happy. Like, you can move into a room and feel that is your aura at work, feeling other people's auras. And so when you collect energy from other people's auras, especially if it's not something you want to have on you, you need to cleanse it. You have to cleanse it. So especially for my empaths, the way that it was explained to me when I first found out what an empath is and kind of like started to really understand my energy, I went to a psychic, actually, before I was even, I'd always been curious, but I went to a psychic and she basically told me, like, your energy is like a lint roller. She's like, you know how a lint roller, it's really sticky, it picks up everything. And she was like, and you have to change the sheet in order to, have it work the right way. That is how your aura is. And that really helped me. It made it click for me. And so I hope that clicked for you or somebody, listening to this, how important it is to clean your aura. Because if you are trying to pick up things with the lint roller, and you've been using it for a year and you've never changed the sheet, you're not really going to pick up much. And you're probably going to feel really icky and sticky because of that. Oops, so I'm just going to insert this in. I also forgot to mention a really great book for if you're trying to understand energy, auras, how all of that works. Own Your Energy. It has a white and blue cover with like gold words. It's in my Amazon store. If you go to my link tree, go to the book section in my Amazon store. That book has a lot about understanding your aura, rips, tears, how to repair them, good stuff on spiritual and energy maintenance. Definitely check out that book. I own it. I love it. I look at it all the time. So cleaning also goes into our personal spaces, right? So not just our aura, because that's like the most personal space ever, but also your bedroom, your office, your home. All of those things are energy. Everything's energy, and energy can be stored in places. So if you have messy surroundings, chances are, chances are that's going to be reflected somewhere in your aura, in your emotions, in your attitude, right? So that's why cleansing is so, so important. Florida water is my best friend. Florida water, if you guys don't know what it is a spiritual cologne. It smells like citrus and magic, and I use it to put on my floors as floor washes, door washes. All of those things are really good ways of what? Spiritual maintenance, energy, hygiene, making sure that you're not only, because of course we have to clean things, right? When we shower, we're cleaning, but like that quote that I said in the beginning, my ancestors were asking me, like, okay, you're jumping in the shower, but are you cleansing your aura? Intention really does make all the difference. So definitely listen to that intention episode. Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can be more intentional with your energy, and that is all part of spiritual and energy maintenance as well. Okay, so taking time for yourself, that's another way. Making sure that you are doing things that you love. Not just necessarily sleep, right? There's different kinds of rest. making sure that you are getting time out in nature, grounding. I can't believe I haven't even mentioned grounding. Like, I've mentioned things that are grounding, like eating, sleeping, all of these things that I'm mentioning, those are all grounding things, by the way. So when we say grounding, a lot of people in the spiritual community, or maybe even outside of the spiritual community, people think that when we say grounding, we're just like talking about touching trees and talking to leaves and stuff like that, which I absolutely do, for one. So, you got to make sure you have your nature time. But at the same time, grounding also includes making sure that you are taking care of these things: eating, sleeping, connecting with others, taking your medications if you have medications to take. It's all intertwined. It is all connected. Cosmosis. That is literally why I named my podcast Cosmosis, or whatever. Because cosmosis is this idea that everything in the entire universe is connected somehow. It always leads back to each other. We are just one big web of each other in a way. It's like you are a drop in the ocean. But how are you going to take a drop from the ocean? If I took a drop out of the ocean and put it back in, do you know I couldn't pick up that same drop? That's the same way that all of our energy is. Somebody needs to hear that, because I feel like I'm slightly getting off track. But again, it's all connected. Okay? So where was I? Let's see. Okay, taking time to yourself, making sure that you are feeding your passions, feeding your hobbies, all of that can be very grounding. And you might need different grounding things at different times. And it can be a lot to keep up with. But I say to keep up with whatever you can. And again, you don't have to be perfect. That's not to say if you don't have the perfect diet, if you don't have the perfect sleep schedule, if you don't have the perfect, cleaning every full moon, which I highly recommend you do. I take a spiritual bath or do some kind of cleansing every full and new moon. Actually, I do a lot more than that because I'm always dealing with other people's energy. Not always like going outside or, being around a bunch of people, but like being on the internet and doing the work that I do, literally healing people's past lives and stuff like that. I have to be very, very particular about what I do so that I do not hold on to somebody's energy for too long and it ends up affecting me. So yeah, taking time for yourself. And speaking of that, another one, setting boundaries. Setting boundaries with people, that is a great way of taking care of your energy hygiene, right? You can't just give energy. You can't pour from an empty cup. I always say that. You can't pour from an empty cup. So it's like if you are just pouring and pouring and pouring into somebody and you are just empty, that's not going to do anybody any good. You have to set boundaries. Okay, and then our spiritual practices, right? So I kind of touched on it a little bit, but you can really turn everything is a spiritual experience, but with that intention makes it that much more, the energy that much more potent, if that makes sense. What do I mean? So for example, when you are in the shower, imagine your aura also being cleaned. A lot of people write off imagination as like it not being true. No, it's true and it's powerful if you know how to use it. And if you know how to distinguish it from your ego, because a lot of people mistake them. But the next time that you're washing your hands, use a little bit of salt or use a soap that has, sea salt in it, Himalayan pink salt. Because that is what? An energy cleanser. Just a little bit of extra. Put, herbs for protection in your lotion, in your body wash. With the intention, right? Wearing colors. I talked about a lot of this in the intentional episode. But all of this is energy maintenance, spiritual hygiene. Meditating. Yes, meditating, that is part of your spiritual maintenance, energy, hygiene. But again, if you are meditating and you're trying to bring you're trying to focus, quiet your mind, bring attention to your thoughts, whatever your goal of meditation is, And there could be a bunch of different goals of meditation. Talked about that in a podcast episode too. And your stomach is growling. How are you supposed to do that? If you're falling asleep, how are you supposed to do that? If you are so depressed because you haven't had human interaction in 2 weeks, how are you supposed to do that? Energy maintenance, spiritual hygiene, eating, sleeping, connecting with others, taking time for yourself, making sure that your area is clean, setting boundaries, spiritual practices, those are all parts of the base of life. And a lot of us were skipping on to other things without really having those things mastered. And again, it's not that you have to master them. It's not that you have to be perfect in order to do these things, because I'll tell you, I absolutely opened my third eye without having a good grounding practice. But was it freaking scary? The things that I saw and what was going on? Yeah. We just talked about in Development Circle how, we were talking a lot about how some of us have experienced a little bit of psychosis or felt like we were right there on the edge of not really coming back to our, human body. And it gets scary. And it's all a lot of times because we're not properly grounding ourselves. We're not properly taking care of our spiritual maintenance. So I really wanted to put this out there, especially for all my brand new people, or a good reminder for all my people who've been on this journey for a while. But I really hope that this gives you something to think about, something to work towards, look forward to, remember on your journey. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you guys in the next one.